will have watched me do a bit of painting on my new collection. It's starting to come together quite nicely now. So the whole collection is called, I think I'm going to call it Spirit Animals, but it might be called Nature's Messengers. Not entirely sure yet. Let me know what you think if I just show you what we've got so far. So the first up is the cat. And the cat, I've actually painted it on recycled paper, and it's got handmade papers attached to it, so you can see where the texture changes. That's because I've attached lots of different papers before I've painted onto it, and it's lovely sort of gold, reflective gold metallic background. So that's the cat. A little bit more work to do on that one. Then this one is also work in progress, and this is my owl. More muted colours, but still little hints of gold leaf on the paper, which when you catch it in certain light like that, you can see the reflective metallics. So that's coming together quite well. So that's the owl. Then I've got the stag here, which is on an abstract landscape background. Again, all the same kinds of colours to be cohesive together, so they all work nicely together. And then the raven. I think this is probably still my favourite one because it actually has metallics in it as well, and the light catches the feathers, so it looks different in every position. And then as I pull the painting out, the abstract landscape begins to form around the bird, which I think is quite a nice effect. So today I'm working on a wolf. So I've got my reference picture and I've sketched out the wolf, and now I'm going to paint in the basic shapes of the wolf. So I'm going to use a very limited colour palette to match the rest of the painting so that they all look like they go together basically. So I'm using a little bit of white, and I'm going to use some yellow ochre for this one, just a touch, not too much. And controversial, I'm going to be using a bit of black paint as well. So basically the colours are very limited, muted, but I'm adding metallics to it, and it's the metallic paint, just trying to squeeze this out without getting it everywhere. It's the metallic paint that really brings everything to life. I'm right at the end of this tube now, and trying to get the last little bit of paint out is always a challenge. This is where you squeeze it and it goes everywhere. There's always more in the tube than you realise. I think you can get these like devices, I don't know if they're called like paint mangles or something like that, and they squeeze the tube all the way to the end. So that's the next on the wish list. And then finally, this is the paint that's going to add quite a bit of magic to the way that the painting comes together. And it's just a basic silver acrylic. And again, coming right to the end of the tube on this one. And the brushes I'm going to use are this one. So it's like, it's got a sloped edge to the bristles and it's quite narrow. So it gives you a nice chiseled effect, but also when you sweep it, it gives some nice fur. So I'm going to twizzle the camera around now, and I'm going to start work on the painting. So we're going that way. So hopefully you can see that's all okay. And there we go. So we're just going to start with mixing up a little dash of the silver in the white. So that makes every colour that I'm painting will be this sort of metallic finish to it. And I've started working in acrylics here. Now typically I would use oil, and I probably do prefer oil, but oil paint really, it takes ages to dry, but also it gives off lots of fumes. So if those of you are sort of starting out with painting and wondering which to go for, that's something to bear in mind. It can be like, it can really give you quite a bad headache. I'm just checking the chat. Oh, Albert, hi Albert, nice to see you. Thanks for joining. You've landed on my my YouTube channel here, where I'm painting a series of 5 animals, and they're going to be like a spirit animal, nature's messenger kind of collection. So I've already laid down my outline, and I'm filling in up to my guidelines. That's really what they are here. And then we use the brush marks to actually create the texture of the fur and the colours of the animal, and blend it all in together. Now I've set myself a bit of a challenge here, because I've made my own paper, my own background paper, by adding in handmade papers. So some of these like textured handmade papers, and there's all different kinds that have been attached. So some of this is tissue paper as well. And what it's done is it's given a beautiful texture to work on, but it's also given me a few ridges where otherwise I'd normally be painting on a flat surface, so a flat canvas. So it might not work, but it might just really kind of pop through. And you won't know until you try, like with everything in life. So we're using a nice bright white here, just to get in sort of the very basic shapes. Painting in around his nose. So I'm constantly checking back to my reference picture, just to make sure I'm getting the colours in roughly the right place. And I'm allowing the shape of the brush to help me put in the lines. Acrylic paint dries quite fast, so that's why I find it particularly helpful to have these guidelines there. Once you've got your basic layers down, you can then work over the top with more and more paint until you get the effects that you want. So I just want to block all the white in first. And another technique that I'm using here is I'm allowing some of the paint to be thick and leave some ridges as well. So it gives a raised part to give texture to the fur. So overall it is a very textured piece, this. Now I don't know if anyone that's watching, if anyone's actually ever seen a wolf. I don't know if you've been to, maybe you live in a country where you actually have wild wolves. I'm based in the UK, so that's not something that we see. We are really quite severely depleted with wildlife in the UK because we're such a small island, and there's lots and lots of people here, and that means that the actual wild wilderness spaces just aren't really there, except if you go into sort of the hearts of Wales and Scotland. But everywhere else is so heavily populated that we just don't have these wilderness spaces. It's such a shame, really. Whereas in America, now I've only been to America a couple of times, and I didn't get to go. I was only there on the East Coast for a work, and I was there for a short amount of time. And we went up to the Canadian border to ski whilst I was out there, which was really great. And that felt like I'd finally got to a nice wild place. But there's loads of places in America I'd love to go. So like the Midwest particularly has always held awe for me. The trails and the forests and the amount of space and all of the wild animals and it. Oh yeah, that would be awesome to see that and to live somewhere like that. You know, where there's actually like bears and things. Sorry if I go a bit quiet, I'm just concentrating. Make sure I don't go wrong with the paintwork. Oh, I think there's someone at the door. Just bear with me a second. Hello? Hi. Yeah, I'm just on the phone at the minute. Okay. Yeah, thank you. It's always somebody that comes to the door when last time it was a delivery. It's just, oh dearie me. So back to the wolf. I'm not sure what that gentleman wanted. He's got a leaflet in his hand. I'm sure I'll be back later on. So where was I? Yeah, talking about countries that you've never been to and things that you'd like to see. And that part of America is on my wish list. But you know, I'd want to go for like quite a while, a long period of time, so you could really, really explore and travel around. But I won't leave my cat, not for all that amount of time. He's like my little guardian. He's asleep in his basket now downstairs. My morning routine as an artist is lie in bed for a little bit and contemplate the day, to kind of plan what I want to achieve and get my mindset in the right place for the day, so I can make the best of the time that I've got in the day and not get railroaded into things that are on someone else's agenda or negative feelings about things. And then once I've done that, maybe a little meditation, it's time to get up and get going, and that involves doing the washing up, which might sound like really mundane, but whilst I'm doing that, I might be listening to something like a podcast or just the radio, and playing with my lovely little cat. Give him lots of attention and wear him out so he can then go to sleep and have a nice long snooze whilst I come upstairs to the studio to work. It's starting to take shape now. Hopefully you can see what I'm painting. I'd have to see if I can get a slightly different studio setup here so that it's a bit easier to see the canvas that I'm working on. I mean, in this case, it's paper. Some of these textures, the textured paper that I've made, is actually a bit difficult where I've got lines and ridges. So I'm not sure if this is going to really work out that well or not. Maybe next time I make some paper like this, I'll make sure that the place where I'm going to paint the animal, I leave that quite smooth and untextured. But it's all an experiment, isn't it? So shortly I'll be ready to mix up a more of a grey colour and start to block in the greys, and then I can really work on the nuances of the texture. So to do that, I'm adding some silver to my white colour, and I'm adding a small amount of black and then a tiny amount of yellow ochre so that the grey that I'm making is cohesive with the colour behind it. That's not dark enough at all. Mix it up a bit. See where we get to with that. That's better. So another painting technique that I like to use is, it's called chiaroscuro, I think that's how you say it. And it basically means contrast of light against dark and dark against light. So where you have a light area in your work, you contrast it with dark, and it makes for a really dramatic painting effect. They used to use it, Caravaggio was one of the famous old masters who used it a lot in his work. So now I'd need to go a bit lighter there. So I'll pick up quite a bit more white paint, and then whilst I'm still painting a grey, I make the grey just a little bit lighter where it appears against the darker part of the background. So you can see it. So there we go, just have a look at the comments. So, is it Vecna, a normal live stream? Yeah, there's always something that goes wrong, isn't there? I think this guy will be back at some point soon. So I'm going to come over here now and paint in the grey on the inside of the wolf's leg, and I need that to be a bit lighter. Painting with acrylics is a totally different technique to oil. So at this point here, I would be blending in every brush stroke that I'm painting. But with acrylic, when it goes down, when the paint goes down, it's down. So each brush stroke has to be more purposeful and placed very carefully, which is where my guidelines really come in. So again, I've got a darker part here, so I'm using a lighter version of my grey, and then where it's lighter here, I'm going to go in with a darker part. Now this isn't on the reference painting because I'm not doing a portrait, I'm not painting to make something look like a photograph. I want to give a feel of mysticism and ethereal and a little bit witchy, a little bit spooky. And that means you have to adapt your painting style to create those effects. So what I'm going to do is stop there and come back and talk to you a little bit. So if I use this example of the raven, yes, the raven is a realistic raven, but I've adopted the colours of the bird with metallics that don't normally appear there to give the bird this beautiful, mystical, ethereal feel to it. And then the same I've done with the owl so far. So again, there's an air of, I've kind of made it softer. So whilst it's a sort of realistic, it has a painterly quality to it, and it has like a dreamy feel. The idea is that I hope that this owl makes people just feel like really calm, because the whole collection is about coming back to yourself, being confident in yourself, and feeling a real sense of calm and peace. So that's it for today. I'm going to crack on now and finish off this painting before lunch. Thanks very much for watching. If everyone's enjoyed it, please do like and subscribe. I'm just sort of getting used to doing these live streams, so it's nice to have people watching. And I'll be back again in the studio in a few days' time. If you've enjoyed watching, then I'm on all the social channels where you can keep up to date with what I'm doing. And I'll try and remember to drop some comments after this when I've made it public, so that you can come back to it and get in touch if you want to. Anyway, before I waffle on too much, thanks for watching and bye for now. Bye bye.